coordinated, like orange and yellow in the middle.
That's right. That's right. I'm trying to see.
We'll get started here in a couple of minutes, even though technically we're live, but people will be joining us.
Absolutely. Well, those of everybody who is joining, welcome. That's all we say, right?
Right.
Absolutely. All right. Fantastic.
Well, the country is starting to is going to start opening up.
Yeah, I saw. Is it Georgia? Were they opening the gyms and everything else?
That's what I heard. They're going to start opening up slowly but surely, depending on where it's not risky, you know.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
I think it's going to be one of the busiest summer you can find. People are going to go crazy getting out of the house.
Yep. Okay, if you're watching us, make sure you put your questions in the chat for tonight's session. We're answering the business-related questions that you might have so you can come out of this COVID-19 season better than ever. So make sure you type your questions in the chat. We'll get them answered for you.
I want to thank those of you who watched last time. I want to thank them very much, for watching. Really appreciate you guys, and I want to let you guys know that I really care about you and your growth, and we all do, care about you and your growth, and we just want you to grow. So, those of you who are here, and I'm honored to be here to answer the questions, and would love to answer them. Any business questions you have, that I'm happy to answer. Okay, any business question, pretty much. I've taken 7 businesses over 7 figures in revenue, and I've helped over 5,000 businesses. So I think I know a couple of questions I can answer. I'm sure. So
Absolutely.
and if you're here live, go ahead and write down the word live at the bottom. If you're watching us on a replay, give us a replay. We would love to hear that.
Yep. All right. Welcome to the 30-minute hour. It's the weekly podcast where we discuss business, sports, politics, and whatever's on our mind. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. I'm also the author of The Discipline of Now, 12 Practical Principles to Overcome Procrastination. And joining me as always is Ted Fells. He's the business strategist extraordinaire. He's the super CEO and all-around good guy.
Hey, Eric. Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing? Like I'm waiting for a response. You good, Dad?
Hey.
They're actively typing their response to you, Ted. So
that's right. That's right. Eric, you didn't get the memo. You see, Ash and I, you see what we're doing. We kind of have an orangish kind of thing going today.
Exactly. I missed the orange shirt memo. Apparently,
you went with the lemon shirt instead. You kind of.
I have my own lemon thing going on.
That's right.
All right. Well, there's a third square. I'm going to reintroduce the man, the myth, the legend himself, who's joining us again. He's back for another episode of the 30-minute hour. He's going to be answering your most pressing questions as it relates to business. Before we do that, Ted, did you happen to see the ESPN special that came on last night, The Last Dance?
I did see some of it. Man, it was great.
I'm glad you said yes, because that would make this dialogue very awkward. Like, no, I don't know what you're talking about, Eric.
I saw the advertisements for it.
No, just curious to hear your take. I wanted to talk about that briefly because it really does tie into what we're going to talk about here. But what were your thoughts?
Man, I mean, Michael Jordan, man, was I just kind of I mean, we always have known he was a fierce competitor, right? So there was nothing really that surprised me about that. I think I, got a little more information about the whole Scottie Pippen situation. I think that was really interesting there. It's kind of the behind the scenes. I mean, when you think about a team that had that level of success, and then how egos and personalities could just make you say, hey, this is gonna be the last season of this. Like we've been dominating, so enough of that. I just from a standpoint of just not wanting to give up some of the spotlight, you just let a dynasty like that just fall apart. That was just interesting to me.
Yeah, it was a lot of egos involved, and it's kind of one of my big takeaways was just kind of the business aspect of how he was the second best player on the planet, but was the sixth highest paid player on his team. And it's easy just to think that people, everybody understands my worth and I should be, but there's a business dynamic. And I just thought that was really interesting when I was looking at that from yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. And then I really felt sorry for what was it? Was it Portland that passed on Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
They picked Sam Bowie.
Yeah.
I know they're like kicking themselves like forever, right?
Yeah. Well, Bob Knight apparently was talking to the general manager at Portland because he had worked with Michael Jordan during the Olympic trials. And he said, look, you have to draft Michael Jordan. I don't care if you think you already have a guard, play Jordan at center. Do whatever you have to do. Make sure you draft this guy.
Yeah.
Didn't take his advice, but the rest is history. So,
wow.
So Ted, I have something that's on my mind.
Please share.
Yeah, I have something on my mind. Initially I was just going to turn it over to my man Ash, and we were going to do the questions, but as I was watching this special, something just occurred to me that I really need to share, get off my chest.
Okay.
Here's what's on my mind. I call this The Last Dance. That's right. The ESPN. What's that?
You call it The Last Dance, huh?
I thought about that all by myself, right? I wasn't influenced by anything. I just call this The Last Dance.
Okay.
By the way, for everyone else, if you're just joining us, this is not your everyday podcast. You can find us here every week on the 30-Minute Hour Live. You can go to the 30minutehour.net to catch our previous episodes. But yes, there's something on my mind. I want to talk to you about The Last Dance. So Ted, last night, that ESPN documentary came on, The Last Dance. It featured and mentioned some of the greatest players ever to play basketball. Right. So you had Michael Jordan, you had Scottie Pippen, James Worthy, and others were mentioned. So each of these champions, they had one thing in common. They had one thing in common. They each had a masterful coach who was a mediocre player. That's right.
Wow.
So Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and James Worthy, they were coached by Phil Jackson and Pat Riley, right? If you check the history of it's interesting. If you check the history of the Hall of Fame, most of the great coaches, they were average or below average players when they played in the NBA.
Wow.
You go back, and that's actually the case in most sports. So here's my theory as to why that happens. So once these future coaches, when they reach the NBA, they reach an arena where they're at a disadvantage, right? They're at a disadvantage because the other players are bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. Bottom line, these other players are better. So to compete, they have to get creative. They had to reinvent themselves, and they had to find their niche. So, for example, they may have been the leading scorer in college, but when they get to the NBA, their niche is now, I'm a defensive specialist.
Yeah.
Or their niche is now, I get rebounds. Or their niche is now, I'm a three-point shooter. So these habits that they develop as mediocre players, it served them well, and they use that experience to inspire their players during their second career as a coach. But being a mediocre NBA player wasn't their last dance, right? And so let's transition this. So if we look at this COVID-19 season that we're in, if you're one of our followers, you may feel like you've reached an arena where you're at a disadvantage. I mean, think about it. You can't go to that networking meeting. You can't sell your product in that retail space. You can't present your ideas in that conference room that has 1,000 decision makers in it. But that being said, I have some good news.
All right.
It's
good news.
Good news. That's right. That's
All
right.
right.
You know, you need to go in the living room, sit down, get off the treadmill. Here's the good news. This isn't your last dance either. It's your opportunity to get creative, to reinvent yourself, and to find your niche. The habits that you develop over these next few weeks will serve you well when this quarantine is over. That's it. That's it. And go ahead, Ted.
No, I mean, I think that's very, that's true. I totally agree with you. I think the one thing though, I think is, when the quarantine is over, like, what does that really mean?
Well,
like,
I mean,
the environment that we came in from, when we go back, that environment is still going to be drastically different.
For sure.
Right? We're wearing masks now. We're still going to probably be doing some version of social distancing. The conference room, the large conferences or whatever, it may take a minute for that to kind of spin back up, for people to be comfortable in those types of settings. You're going to have to, like you said, reinvent yourself and come up with a niche, that's totally different than, how you were thinking, 90 days ago. Like 90 days ago, would we have ever been thinking that we were going to be wearing masks?
No. Yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point, and that's where being creative and reinventing yourself comes in, because it may not get back to the normal as we define it. But when I was saying when the quarantine is over, meaning when outside at least opens,
right?
When things at least open back up, it's going to be different, and that's all the more reason to focus on what our guest is about to drop on us.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect segue into to Ash and his part, because he can help to help us to become more creative. And he can help us to reinvent ourselves. I know he does that with the business owners that he's worked with, and he helps people to find their niche. And like you said, Ted, the niche you had before and the niche that you'll have after this may be different, right? Yeah. So let's go ahead and bring Ash into the mix. And for those of you that watched us last week, you know exactly who this is, and you know exactly why he's back. I mean, he came to the United States from India in 1989 with $20 in his pockets and was unable to speak English. And let's fast forward to today. He's helped over 5,000 businesses. I mean, he's received congressional honors. He's a best-selling author of the book Sell Like Crazy. And his business is doing better during this pandemic. So it's very important that we listen to what he has to say. And I know you're going to be sending questions. We've already got questions that have been sent in. So please join me in welcoming to the 30-Minute Hour podcast, Ash Shukla.
Thank you. Thank you so much, my friend.
Welcome.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate that,
All right.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here.
Yes, it's an honor and a privilege to have you.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. And I want to give it back to you to both of you to let you know that you guys are doing a fantastic job. I love your podcast.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right.
That means Eric, we're gonna have him on for a third time. What are you doing next week?
That's right.
Yeah, we can talk about that. But this is great. I am very happy to be here. Just so you know.
Right.
Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. So
So
let's get
if anybody has any kind of questions or whatever, I'm happy to answer. Just so you know.
yeah, and let's get to that. I see there's a couple of people typing into the chat now. I've got a question that was sent to me from yesterday. We'll just get this started. So the first question, Ash, what are the first three things that someone launching a business should do?
So I think that if somebody's gonna launch a business, it's important to realize that you should launch a business because you really want to do something good for the community or the public. The launching a business is never about you, it's about who you can serve.
Hmm,
So I think that it is important that number one, that you come from a place of service and not anything else. I think that many business owners make a mistake. I talk to many business owners all the time, and they start a business because they want to make a profit. Now I understand you have to make a profit because you are in business, and your business needs to make a profit. That I'm not saying don't make a profit, but if you start, the number one step you must take it, you must come from a place of giving back to the community. Number one.
hmm,
Number two, you know I think that many business owners start from a place of impulse. So business, starting a business and running a business is not a sprint, is a marathon, and it's going to take time. You are going to have to be steadfast at your everything. But most important thing that you have to be steadfast on is about your financials. It's important that you stay, and you make sure that you're creating a habit of making sure that you're handling your financials properly, and making sure that you have a good solid ground. Because in times like, there are times like COVID, right, or times like other bad times like 2008 market crash, all that is going to come. And if you're not prepared for it, then you not only that you can't breathe, but your business cannot breathe. Money in the account is a breath for your business. So if that's not there, then that's going to cause a problem. So number two, be steadfast. And the most important thing you have to do is you have to l- develop an attitude that you're going to move forward no matter what. Keep charging forward. And I think those three things are so crucial, Eric, that you have to go in that order. Because if you don't, then I've seen many business owners get in trouble because they don't.
hmm.
Hmm.
So you mentioned something about it takes time. And I think people kind of go into business with rose colored glasses and think that, I'm going to put my shingle up and that's just going to, the money just going to be pouring in out of the vents. Uh, what, what's a realistic time frame that someone can expect before their business really takes off?
So if you're making the right moves, and that's assuming you're making all the right moves, which you're not going to. In the initial stage of the game, you're going to make all the wrong moves on planet Earth you can possibly imagine. Right? Like Eric, my story a little bit. Ted, my story a little bit. But I was going for my insurance exam in 2000. I mean 1994. My very first endeavor in terms of and I was an independent contractor with a major bank. And they wanted me to sell insurance. I'm like, okay. And I went into that, and I would go after on appointment after appointment after appointment, and I could not even close my own dad. I had to literally blackmail him through my mom to get my first sale. Like, that's pretty much was my starting point, right? So it's very, I was taking my exams, right? I mean, I went to take the insurance exam. First time I got 68. No, 69. I needed 70 to pass. Second time was 68. Third time was 67. Fourth time was 68. Fifth time was 66. Sixth time was 68. Seventh time was 69. And I thought the guy outside who was a proctor, I thought he was prejudiced because I had learned a brand new word, prejudice, from O.J. Simpson trial by then. So I said, I said that's the word. I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me. I'm new from India. I don't know English, but that prejudice makes sense to me. So like I was thinking that was wrong, and then finally I was so pissed off. Finally, I went eighth time and I passed my test. But I'm saying that to tell you that there is no real in terms of formula, right? Which formula really works? Is
Yeah.
the formula that works is formula that's in alignment with who you are.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
you will find that over time. There is no magic bullet around that. The only thing you can, but we have to be careful of what we can control, right? And what we can control is um, is our intent and our action, right? Our rightful intent and our action with a proper strategy. You can make it work. Now, if you get help, that always is good. But back in the day, I didn't have money. Like, I was, what do I know, right? I knew hi and I was bye, and that was my English. So like, beyond that, even if I got the help, I didn't know what they were talking about. Like,
Mhm.
so it didn't. So at the end of the day, if you got the right help, and you go in with the right intent and you work really hard, it's a long-term game. It's never a short-term game.
Mm.
The long-term game is never a short-term game. Fantastic. Okay. So here's the next question. What should an independent business owner do when they hit a plateau?
Mm.
So when somebody hits a plateau, you have to think of it like a workout, right? Like, when you hit a plateau, what's happening? I tend to look at that when I hit a plateau, what's going on, right? So there are few things going on. Number one, you're bored out of your mind with the activity. Like when I'm working out and I'm doing same workouts every day, I'm bored out of my mind. Every single doing the same things over and over. So your intensity goes down, right? So they talk about, like, in workout, you got to create body confusion, right? And just like that in business, you got to create business confusion, and you really have to go at it, number one, differently, but more harder, because now it's going to be, it's just like the last 10% of body fat is what takes longest to lose. It's a similar concept in business. When you hit a plateau, it's time for you to move differently. You have to do things a little differently. You have to be willing to grow in a different way, and you have to push it harder, because what happens energetically inside of you, you have to make like, you have to give your body, give your mind a different command on how you're gonna go forward. Otherwise, it will be same results. So it is important that when you hit plateau, change it up and work smarter, but work harder. It's so crucial, because plateaus will happen. Plateaus are another way of letting us know that we have reached a height that other people who have a hard time reaching it, and it's time for us to move it up a notch so we can take more people with us, basically.
Mm.
Awesome. Awesome. So Ted, I know you're following the chat. You see any new questions that have come up?
Ah, nothing yet, but a lot of people are watching and they're thinking.
Okay,
I see,
great. So
I see some comments.
Right.
Someone says this is an entirely different segment. Great job on your podcast. There's a lot of COVID-19 related questions for the government, that type of thing. So I'm sure as we get this going, we'll have some more here in the chat.
absolutely, no problem. And
Yep.
and those of you who are here and watching us live, give us the word live. And if you're watching us on replay, give us the word replay. If you like to give us some love or likes, we are happy to take them. And we are here to tell you that we love you too. So
That's right. That's right.
All right. So next question. Can you give me some tips to turn my hobby into a profit?
Mm.
I think the first mistake, okay, first thing you have to determine in order for you to turn your hobby into profit is that is your hobby really profitable,
Hmm.
Mm.
into the world? Like for instance, I could be into folding napkins. That's my
Right.
business. I'm gonna fold napkins, right?
Sure.
But folding napkins is a good it's a good hobby, but I'm not so sure if I can really make it into profits. So first thing is you have to determine, is there a market? Absolutely, there is a market. If you do it in a unique way, in a different way. So first, if there is not a profitable, like if there's no such a thing, right? Then we need to stop ourselves and say, how can we make it into a profit, right? Maybe I need to learn how to fold these napkins and pick a niche that would really appreciate my craft. So for instance, that some hotel owners or some boutique places that would appreciate, or maybe some event planners that would appreciate how I'm folding my napkins, and how it's making it look appealing. Like if you go to certain hotels nowadays, there's little, they make things out of the handkerchiefs and stuff like that. Somebody had that hobby and they turned it into a profit. So there's always a market, but first you have to determine, is there a market and where is that market? And I think that that's the most important thing that somebody can do to turn their hobby into profits. Most people don't do enough research to understand how do you turn this simple idea, simple hobby that you absolutely love to do, into profits. And so that's what I would suggest, is really do some market research. It is absolutely crucial. You can turn any hobby into profit. The question is how big or how small you want to be, you know and that would be determined by the market, but more importantly, that would be determined by, can you spot opportunities for your hobby to be inserted into. Like everything was a hobby at some point. When Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook, it was a hobby. He didn't know it was going to be a big thing. He just knew that he could develop something amazing that everybody can participate in, and he did. And here we are. Amazon, Jeff Bezos, same situation, right? So when you really take a look at people who start things in garage or small businesses in a basement, how do they start? With a hobby. In many ways, it's hobbies, but they figured out how to penetrate the marketplace.
Hmm.
And some and sometimes I think if oftentimes if you're doing something that you really like to do, like I know some people that really enjoy sewing, right? And then this mass thing happened.
Hmm.
Like they never knew that something they enjoyed doing could, like could just turn into a revenue generating opportunity for them. And I mean, some people have really been able to do that and be really creative with something that, again, probably 90 days ago, they were just playing around with a sewing machine, and now they're taking a bunch of orders, right?
Hmm.
So I think it's, as you said, Ash, if it's something that you like to do, that's great. Then it's also just kind of keeping your eyes and ears open to where there may be an opportunity where someone may have a need for what it is that you like to do. I know some people that also really like to do like interior decorating, right? They're really into that. And then they start businesses where they're, going into places and, just kind of helping to lay out parties and events, right? Something they like to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And you'll find that that many people have hobbies, and I have to say that not all hobbies are, like, you may not want to make your hobby a profitable venture. Maybe it's just a hobby, something you enjoy doing, something you just like. It has hobbies don't have to be profit ventures. It could be just something for pleasure. maybe the profit is in your passion, right? In that case, and you just leave it at that. Some people just like serving, some people just like doing other things. Maybe you like to go to church, or go to some sort of a spiritual place, and just hang around with people, and there is serve at the place of worship, or place of spirituality, wherever that you may go. And I think those are perfectly fine. It doesn't have to be profitable. I mean, I don't think hobbies, but if you're looking to make hobbies into profit, then you have to take different steps. I mean, at some point, you have to make the right steps in that case.
I
So
have
what?
a
Go ahead, Ted.
I have a friend, Walter, that I think is probably one of the best that I've ever seen take take hobbies and turn it into profitability, right? He's always doing something, right? So he's working out, so he's training people, right? He's always doing like ski trips and then bringing people together. He's always throwing parties. I mean, he's always doing something. And I said to him, I was like, Walter, man, you're doing all these things. He said, well, I like to, everything that I do, I try to make money doing it. Like I need to work out. So if I work out, I'm going to train some people and make some money. He said, I need to, I like to take trips. So I plan a ski trip and I make money with a bunch of people going on the ski trip. Like it was just, and he was saying, I was just like, man, like that's, so it's like everything that he does, he finds a way to make a profit from it.
Yeah, and if you go back to him, Ted, like if you ask him, his passion is really helping people and making profits. Like
Yeah.
his passion is not really workout. He just works out because he has to. But his passion is really, he loves the idea of generating revenue, right? His passion is really, he loves the idea of helping along the way. Like that's his thing, and it's nothing wrong. I think that some people take it wrong, that you cannot have money as a motive, like you cannot have profit as a lot of business owners do things. It's a game for them, just like Eric, you were talking about earlier, this is my last dance kind of thing, right? So when you talk about all the successful people, is they're dancing their dance because they're secure in their own in themselves, so they don't have to worry about whatever else goes on. They're just having fun with it. So as long as you're having enjoying yourself, I think it's important. So I'm sure your friend Ted is enjoying that.
Yeah, I mean, just the more I think about it, I think he's really a people person, and so
Yeah.
everything that he's doing is allowing him to, be with his friends, have
Yeah.
fun with his friends,
Yeah.
have a party, make money, travel, make money, work out, do a training class, make money, but then
Yeah.
get to, like you said, help people and be around his friends and make money doing it. So I think it's a great
Absolutely.
deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. It's a big deal. And that's great. Congratulations to him if he's watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned this idea of surveying the market and making sure there's a demand. Are there specific steps that you would recommend? So if someone has this idea, I'm sure there's somebody watching us now, they've got this idea, but before they launch, they really want to make sure there's a demand for it. What are some steps they can take to really survey the market and find out what the need is?
Hey, Eric,
Yeah.
Can I throw this question in from Geisha Roberts, which may tie into what you're saying? The question is, if you're trying to turn a hobby into a business, should you do a business plan?
Yes, you should absolutely do a business plan. But more importantly, you should do the research. What type of a hobby does Keisha have?
Geisha, what type of hobby do you have?
Okay, so that's coming across. But
Okay.
go ahead, Ted. Did she answer?
Yes. Yeah, when it comes across, I'll let you all know.
Yeah, please. Yeah. So the thing is that she can go on sites like a Mashable. Like it's as ridiculous as that sounds. Mashable is probably one of the largest sites somebody can go to, right? Another one is SEM Rush. SEM Rush. It's a great place for you to go visit. type in any what do you call this website, right? And you can tell, like for instance, competitor research. So for instance, if I was in a napkin business, I would find out, napkin brand, what kind of, like literally type in, folding napkin in a key, in a research, in the search bar. And or you can go on to the what do you call this you can go on to the one of the websites that actually represent napkins, and you can find out, like, what keywords they're researching, how much like it will tell you everything you need to know. The other place you can go to find out if your hobby has a merit is you can actually go to your library, and in the library there is actually business, systems. I believe it's called A to Z database, and you just go to your library and literally just ask them for that. It's completely free. Libraries already pay for it now. So what you would do is you would gain access to that, and you can actually research some companies and figure out even locally what type of competitions there are. So yes, you can turn your habits into profits, but these are some of the things you should do to see if it's really viable. And but those are some of the things that I have seen happen.
So Geisha's hobby is event planning,
Okay, event planning. Okay, so event
and
planning.
she also makes jewelry. So Geisha's doing a couple things.
Okay, I like, so both of them, Keisha, is Keisha, right?
Geisha with a G.
Gisha. Okay. So,
Geisha.
Gisha, thank you so much for asking that question. And honestly, both of those are extremely profitable ventures. Now, I know they, in a jewelry space, it's a high profit margin, business. So I think it's a great idea to, and it's easy to sell. Like if you really stop and think about it, everybody, like especially, a lot of all the ladies, they love that, right? I know somebody who took their business. And Gisha, I'm happy to give you more ideas, but just to give you an idea for now, is that you can actually, if you did as simple as figure out ways where you can market yourself, even if it's just as simple as table vending. I know business owners that do nothing but just table vending. Keep it simple. One of the things, worst mistakes I've seen people make is they complicate things. Don't complicate your business. Keep it really, really simple. It's in terms of, like, like what Eric and, Ted, what they are doing here is they are literally just interviewing to gain their audiences, right? So basically, this is how they grow their business, and that's one strategy, and that's the end of strategies, like, in a good way, in a big way, right? So you could do the same thing, where keep it simple. So with your hobby, both of your hobbies are absolutely profitable. You just have to believe in yourself and figure out simple steps you can take to get to the next level. Event planning, I mean, it's huge. Who doesn't want to plan? I mean, who wants to plan that event? I don't. Like, I don't want to sit
I
there
don't
and
either.
plan my event and figure out, what all the logistics needs to go in. So I would say that event planning is huge. Just make sure you are different than everybody else, and that would be the one thing I would tell you. As far as jewelry, I said just go to trade shows, put your stand up, and you sell jewelries, and you'll be fine. Just keep the cost under control. So, don't let people gouge you in terms of your table vending, in terms of money. Make sure that it's is relatively, women oriented place, and where you have your captive audience, and make sure your jewelry matches the event you're sponsoring. So for instance, there are certain jewelries that African American women like versus Indian women, or Caucasian women. So make sure your jewelries are, properly, set up, and you can make a lot of money with that. I know a business owner that I helped with that business. We took their business to over $250,000 in revenue. So it's easily doable.
Awesome. Awesome. So here's another question.
Yeah.
I want to start a business, but I don't have the education or the training. What
Mm.
do I do?
Okay. So in terms of the education is concerned, 90% plus CEOs, biggest companies around the world, are not educated.
Mm.
They have high school diploma, pretty much all of them who are really successful. right? Most of them are dropout. They're college dropouts. Okay, to some degree, one way or the other. Okay, so just remember that people who have knowledge, who are extremely intellectually sound, they usually are not in the CEO position. So you have a you have a leg up there. So that's an easy part, right? Um, so as far as time is concerned, if you have passion for it, you'll figure out the time. Like, if you have to drag this and say, okay, you just don't have a time because you don't have the time, well, I mean, obviously it's an excuse to a good degree, because everybody finds time for something that is very valuable to them.
Hmm.
So make sure that your business is a passion. That's why I mentioned very first question when I answered Eric. I said that make sure that you are coming from a place of love and place of giving, and place of doing something big. And if you do that, then you'll find the time. So it's important to do that. But if you are looking for just for profits and trying to cut corners, that's where you have the motivation issues, is to finding the time. So everybody can find the time, and one of the best ways to find your time is to calendar, like write down where you're spending your time on a
Hmm.
daily basis. Just write it down. Just take a week and write down where you spent your time every hour by hour, or every 3 hour in a blocks of 3 hours. And I bet you'll find time. You'll find time somewhere in there. I mean, like, I had a packed day today. I've been on the with my employees and me, and then I had appointments. So I've been up. I wake up around 5 every morning, between 4:30 and 5. My shift, my employee shift, like, they start at around 6. So I'm literally on doing this at 6 in the morning. I'm like, we're up and running, right? So, and then I was on calls after calls after calls, and I thought, I mean, I was exhausted around 4 o'clock. I was like, and usually around 4 I'm like completely, because I've been awake for a long time. So, and I've been on Zoom calls, constantly. So, but even then I found a time to, like, take a nap in the afternoon, and now I'm completely fresh. So, and now I'll keep going until, later on tonight. But overall, is that, can you find time? Absolutely, you can find time. you
You
know
know, and we talk about this thing of finding your passion, doing something you're passionate about. It sounds like a cliche, but I tell you what, I found that's so critical, because if you're not passionate, you're not going to want to put the extra hours in. And I know of people who they bought into a franchise because they were sold that this was a cash cow, this was a turnkey. They really weren't passionate about the business, and they're miserable.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally hate what they do every day. So I think it's so important to find something that literally that you would do if there was no money involved. So that way, when you get to the grind, it makes it easier to go through. Ash, would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%, I would agree with that. I think that many people, it's hard. Like, when we came here, and I think that there's also a choice issue. Like, when we came here, I was the first one to get a job. I was working at Little Caesars Pizza. I didn't know what I was doing. They had me flipping pans in the back, and then one time I had to take an order, and of course the guy speaking English, and I can't speak English, nor I understood English. So that was but I saw other people check boxes, and I just checked boxes. The pizza was wrong, obviously, but I checked boxes, right? I pissed off the customer really badly, and things. And there was this guy, he's a few minutes later, the guy comes out, to pick up his pizza, and he was mad, and I was cracking up because I don't know what he was saying, but it wasn't pleasant. So I'm like, okay, whatever, like, keep it going. So I was laughing, and laughter is contagious. So everybody else started laughing. It was just hilarious the way he got more and more mad. And it's okay. Things are going to happen, right? But if you're not like, we had to survive, right? It was our passion. Like, we came here for a better opportunity. So, like, in terms of that was concerned, that was my first job. I never had a job in my life, and then I went to work for a gas station. You know, and we worked because we were fighting for our family, right? At the end of the day, like, we were fighting for our freedom. So And in, at the age of, like, if you have the passion, you will make it work. I would go to school in the morning. I would come home in the afternoon around 3. I would walk, literally, I would get off the bus and I would walk to my work, and work until around 10, 12 at night. Walk back home. It was about a mile and a half to 2 mile hike. Walk back home. Would work from Monday to Thursday like this. On on Fridays, I work from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to Saturday morning. Then I would go home, go to sleep for a couple of hours, come back, and work 24 to, 24 plus hour shift again on Saturday. And that was a constant grind for 2.5 years.
Mm.
But it was because of all of that, and of course my mom and dad had gotten a job in between, arts and the jobs, right? So because of that, right from the get-go, like, we were able to buy a house within a year and a half of being in the United States, not speaking English. So, like, it's not in a, I'm sorry, but I just don't buy the fact that you don't have time. You literally don't have the drive. That's what's missing. If you find the drive, the rest will take care of itself.
So Ash, did you always know that you were gonna be an entrepreneur, or did that just kind of evolve from you working and then just decided I want to have my own company? Like, how can you tell our listeners about that?
Yeah. So, since I was a kid, I knew that I was different. To put it mildly, right? I was different in the family. Like, so I liked, I was naughty. I was always,
Eric's naughty as well,
yeah,
so
there
Yeah,
you go.
right.
So I was, so I was not, but I had a drive, and I think part of the reasoning is I had a, I, sometimes when the kids are, you grasp things really fast. Like, I grasp things really fast when I see something, and I want to really, if I pay, as long as I can zoom in for a short period of time, but I'm able to grasp things really, really fast. And then I get bored, so I hit that plateau really fast, and then I have to really do something, different. So, that being said, as I was, moving along in the process, I was also, when I was a child, I grew up with my uncle and aunt who, had a big shingle factory back home. So, like, I had seen him successful, right? So there were a lot of things that I had seen that I really enjoyed about being a business owner, and I just didn't know I was gonna be, like, honestly, when I came here, I was gonna be a computer scientist, and and math as my minor. That's what I studied in college. But it as time went on, sometimes your destiny finds you, right? So you got to let your destiny find you. I think that we try to block it, and we shouldn't. And so, to some degree, I knew, but I mean, nobody really knows, right? So you just have to, you have to keep learning the lessons and keep going.
mm.
But that's a great question, Ted. Thank you for asking. And those of you who like it, give me two thumbs up.
All right. Okay. Next question. I want to be self-employed, but I don't have enough money. How do I get started?
Mm.
The most important thing when you don't have money is start where you are.
Hmm.
So, start with what you have and where you are. Don't try to, be, somebody that, has a lot of money and can throw at it, throw at a business. Start where you are. It's okay, right? It's okay that you don't have money for marketing. Just start figuring out the best way you can and go from there. And when you make a dollar, decide to invest part of that, back into the business and start the ball rolling. Don't wait. And that would be the best thing I can say about that.
Well,
If you don't have money, it's not don't use that for, like, hindering you. Just start and move on. Wherever you are, doesn't matter.
I'd like to add something to that. I think that people think that you can just throw money at it, right? And then the profits will happen with you throwing the money. But I think the less money you have, the more innovative and creative you will be, right?
Yeah.
Because you're thinking, okay, yeah, I'm gonna put a commercial on TV and an advertisement on the radio and banners on the side of buses. Well, you don't have the money to do that. So what you gonna do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You got to get the word out. And right now with social media, like that platform that we have now, I mean, if you think, 20 years ago, 10 years ago or so, we didn't have it to this level. I mean, you know, you can have a virtual store. I mean, you can reach people worldwide, you know, when before you may just put a, you know, a banner on a bus and the bus is only here in the DC area. Now you put something online, it can be worldwide. So, you know, the possibilities are endless there.
Absolutely, it is. You know, like today more than ever, you can do free marketing. Like, you know, it wasn't like that back in the day. You know, when I got started, I had to, like, you know, it was difficult because I had to, you know, I had to beat the payments. You know, it wasn't the easiest thing to do, right? I walked up to strangers, I walked up to all, I mean, I've done presentations with the family, all that, but everything costs money, right? Back in the day, it costs money in some way, shape, or form. You know, nowadays, like, you know, I have a client of mine who I taught how to do simple Facebook Live, and all of a sudden she went from a 20 people watching it to, you know, last live she did, it was about 135 people watching it. I mean, it's just you know, in a matter of literally a day. You know, like, so yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, it's just so much easier, my friends, to market now, right now.
And I think it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about being creative and just thinking of different ways to reinvent yourself. I mean, we're at a time when you can really get your message. I mean, on Facebook, you can spend $30 and get your message out to thousands of people.
Yeah, I mean, so I did a Facebook ad, and those of you who want to learn, just, you know, inbox me, and I'm happy to teach you. But I did a campaign recently, Eric. I spent $30, and I reached 50,000 people.
Mhm.
Wow.
I mean, like, it's ridiculously, you know, good when it comes to. I mean, and I've done that over and over with several people. But all I'll say is that at the end of the day, you know, you have to apply yourself, and I think most people freeze not applying themselves, and because there's an inner belief, you know, inside of them, energetically they're not aligned with, you know, what they're doing, or there's an inner disbelief, and maybe they come from a background that wasn't so pleasant and all that, and the baggage is all there, and you got to get rid of the baggage sooner rather than later.
You know, I tell people all the time that I think the easiest thing in the world to do is to do nothing.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot to do it. I mean, you can find a reason to not do something without
Yeah.
really, you know, giving a whole lot of thought to it. So,
Yeah, and you know, like, everything is like a heartbeat, right? So it's either heartbeat is either this way, right, or flat. So when you're flat, you're not here anymore. You are somewhere up there, you know. But so at the end, when you stop and you do nothing, right, you're actually going this way,
mm,
right? When you do something, you go this way. When you don't
Mhm.
do anything, you go this way, right? And I want to share with you that we are energetic beings, and I'm gonna show you something while you guys and before the next question comes out, I'm gonna bring something, you know, so I can show you. But you know, people don't realize that we are energetic beings. So energetically, either we are going up or we are going down,
Mhm.
mm,
right? So if you really want to keep going up, you got to stay in motion. Is the way the life is built,
mm.
you
Yeah,
know.
there's no such thing as standing still. If you're not moving forward, you're going backwards.
No,
That's
no.
the way it is.
Yeah.
And so the whole self-belief thing really ties into this next question. I'm glad you touched on that. So here's the next question. I'm an introvert who has a hard time networking.
Mm.
How can I start and grow a business?
Okay, so um at the end, you know, whether you, so just so you know, I'm an introvert. I don't show it, but I'm an introvert in many ways. I like being alone. I like sitting by myself. I don't like people, like, you know, sometimes there are days where I don't care if somebody's around me or not, like, literally don't care, right? And I could sit down, and if nobody's around me, I'm perfectly fine. You know, where some people will be like, oh my god, like, I need to have somebody. Nope, not here. I'm good, you know. You know. You know, so even though I'm extrovert to a good degree, in terms of I love meeting people and giving them hugs and all of that, But when I'm alone, it doesn't bother me a bit, right? So I think that introvert is good, because many people who are successful are introvert. Just so you know, like many successful people are introvert by nature. That's how they are wired,
Mm,
so I think the introversion is a benefit, not a hinder. So the question is, how do you use it? Because
mm.
introverted means you are a good solid thinker. You have a good you head on your, I was going to say shoulder on your head, but it's head on your shoulder. you
That would
know
be a problem if you have a shoulder on your head.
Right.
yeah, that would be a problem, but you, you have a good head on your shoulder, right? And you're able to move things forward. You at least know that part. And if you are introvert and you are having a hard time, my friend, you know, like, do something small to help you move forward. Don't worry about this big grandiose idea that everybody does. Find your thing, because being an introvert, maybe you can send out as simple as text messages, like you could do that. Okay, so maybe you don't like to talk to people, no problem, just text them, right? If you don't like to talk to people, no problem, message them, right? If you don't like to talk to people, connect on LinkedIn and start conversations that way. But at the end of the day, and if you really are introvert and you just don't want to talk to anybody, and you want to have a business that's a turnkey system, at some point in time you're going to have to do one of two things, right? If you don't have money, start where you are, start collecting some money, and save it up for future. And once you have enough cash, right, you can actually get enough help to take care of it for you. So it's okay that you're introvert, but don't let that be a hindrance that's going to stop you from going forward.
One thing that I do, and this works for me, but it may not. I don't think I'm an introvert at all, but I think this helps is just focus on just speaking to people. Like you could just be getting on the elevator and just say hello. You could be at a restaurant, you can talk to a server. I'll do that and I'll say, what do you recommend? Right? Just any way that you can just get yourself into just small talk. Because really that's the biggest thing in networking, is just being able to engage in small talk. Right? Because I think a lot of times people feel like I need to go and become like almost like a commercial for my company or whatever I'm trying to do. Well, no, you first want to just connect with someone, right?
Right.
Just connect. Yeah, I like those shoes you have on. That's a really nice shirt you have on, right? The people start talking, they get warm, they open up, you open up, and then the dialogue goes from there. So I think, like you're saying, just keep it simple. You don't have to say a whole lot. Just focus on just having just quick, you know, polite dialogue with people. And the more that you do it and the more that you work on it, then it'll be easy for you when you're going to a networking event to just start having conversations. Because if you're just sitting in a corner at a networking event by yourself, then you just wasted your time going in there, because that connection that you may be need for your business is right in there, right?
Yeah.
Somebody in there could be the person. It's interesting. I remember this one young lady was telling me years ago. She had a business and she was in this event and she was talking to all these different people, and then she got tired and she was like, there was like this one last person in there that she hadn't met, and she was like, and the person didn't look, just looked kind of rough, not really anything really polished. And she just went over and spoke to that person, and that person was the person that helped her business take off. Like that was the key contact that others didn't go speak to that person. She took a moment just to go introduce herself to that person, and he asked, what does she do? And it just opened up an amazing opportunity for her. So you don't want to miss out on those opportunities
Hmm.
by
Yeah.
not.
So, and my thing on that is I think sometimes we accept labels that people place on us, like at a young age. Someone calls you, and so you start to think that you are. But behaviors I found are fluid. I mean, you're different in different situations. Like I never forget, we had this event, and this guy who's a speaker. I mean, he tore the house down. I
Mm,
mean, I mean, he nailed it. And so I'm talking to him afterwards, and he says that he's so introverted that when he does his engagements, he gets there right before he has to speak, so he doesn't have to talk to people.
Mm.
Like, I was shocked. I mean, watching him on stage, I would have never guessed that.
Mm.
But the takeaway is that, I mean, you're different in different situations. So hopefully, and I'm glad this introvert question came up, because I get that all the time from people that say, oh, well, Eric, I'm not like you. I'm not like Ted. I couldn't start a podcast. I'm too introverted. Not the case.
And
That's
then
a
there's
great.
also and then there's also some things, Eric, that you can do, right? Like some of the things that you've done to get to the point that where you are, classes, groups that you can do to help you try to hone in on those skills. Absolutely. So you may want to share some of that with the listeners, or some of the things that you've done.
Yeah, I mean, it's Toastmasters International. Like anytime anyone asks me, hey, Eric, I want to become a better speaker, I really want to get out there, I want to improve my communication skills, I would definitely recommend Toastmasters International, because it forces you to get up and speak. You have presentations, you have roles in the meetings, and if you do it enough, like anything, over time, you get better. And I've seen people at Toastmasters that literally, when they did their first speech, they were about to cry. They were so uncomfortable. And now they are excellent communicators. Like, you would never, if they told you they were introverted, you wouldn't believe them. So I just see, please, I think the big takeaway here is, don't let your belief that you're an introvert hold you back from pursuing your business, that business that you're called to.
No.
So Ash, I know you had said you were going to get something to.
I got it.
Okay.
So I was telling people that whether you believe it or not, when you are not doing something, your frequency of your heart is going up and down, right? So, and you are energetic being. So people tell you that you are energy, and the question is, how do you prove that you are energy is the question, right? So we have to see how are we energy, is the question. So the question is, so to answer that question, like, you have to understand that you are frequency, and you're going either in a positive frequency or negative frequency. You're going in one of the two, right? But even when you're still, you're actually going down. You're not still, right? The only time you're absolutely still is when you're not here on planet Earth. Okay, your soul is not here. That's the only time. That's why when you look at the monitor on the doctor's place, right, it goes up and down. It doesn't go flat until you are flat, like you are literally gone, right? So it's important to notice that. And this is a tool that I'm going to show you. I'm going to prove it to you that we are energetic. Like, I've taken this tool and showed it in a room full of 50 people, 100 people, doesn't matter. So the idea behind is, if you take this on one side and you hold each other's hands, and you come around in circle, when the last person touches this, right, it does this. So it only does it. I'm not wired to anything, I promise you. I'm not a laptop, or I'm not a bulb. It just lights up, okay? Just because it says that I am energetic being, right? And what happens is, the more excited I get, the more excited this thing gets. So the important point here is that you are energetic being. If I touch it here, see, nothing will happen, right? But here it will happen, right? Because here there are no nerve endings here, right? This is just like a bone, right? But nerve endings here, right? So if you touch it at places, like if I touch it here, nothing, right? But if I touch it here, right? So there's nothing here except this. I'm literally, it's just a little tool that I have to show that we are energetic beings. And if we were together and we were holding hands, like in a circular format, I would hold one, and then we would hold each other's hands, and then when the last person, like, let's say, whoever was on the other side, when they touch this, it will light up. But when we let it go, or if somebody breaks the chain in the human cycle, this will stop. So what I'm saying to you is that we are energetic human being energies, and most people don't realize how powerful you are, whether you are introvert, whether you are extrovert, whether you are whatever you believe you are. But I'm here to tell you that you are very powerful.
Mm,
Just you have to believe in you.
mm,
Absolutely. Confidence is the key to everything.
Yep.
Anybody that's great. We were talking about Michael Jordan. When he walked on the court, he knew he was the best player in the world.
mm.
Yeah.
He just had that mindset. I've seen it, when he set foot on North Carolina's campus, he knew he was great. It's just that mindset that we have to develop if we want to succeed as an entrepreneur. We want to succeed at anything, really.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you remember when they said on the show that he got cut on his, I think, his sophomore year, trying to go out for the varsity team, and called his I guess his mom, or went to his mom, and he was crying, and his mom was crying. And then from there to become, arguably the greatest basketball player of all time.
Right. Right.
Wow.
He wanted to prove them wrong. And again, it goes back to your mindset and how do you deal with adversities and just really being confident. So no, I think that was very powerful. The demonstration about energy, because I think it's because I try, even with my work, I try to tell people it's not time management really. It's really energy management more than anything else.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
and you spilled that out right there.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a powerful tool, my friend. I'm telling you, it only works if I touch it. So if I touch it here, no problem, right?
Eric wants one of those. He's looking at that
Exactly.
like a little kid, like, I want one of those, Eric. Oh my goodness.
I'm going to do it in front of a crowd and hope they haven't seen this episode.
Oh man.
I will share with you, Eric. I promise.
All right, man. Please do. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have one last question. I don't know, maybe some others in the chat, but here's the last question. I run my own business on a part-time basis while working a full-time job. How do I make my part-time passion my full-time business?
Mm.
So if you're part-time, business and you are having a full-time job, right? I would say number one, manage your time wisely. In terms of, because you have limited amount of time. You have to, if you really love your business and you really want to grow it, give yourself enough time, right? Make sure that you give your evenings, proper attention. And with family, I'm just telling it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be walk in the park, right? There's going to be things that you're going to have to do that you don't like. There's going to be things that you're going to sacrifices you're going to have to make. It's just the way it's going to be. But it's important that you start where you are, number one. Number two, it's important that you become really frugal, because if you ever have a chance to make it full time, you have to be fluid in cash flow, right? So make sure that you're frugal, but more importantly, make sure you develop a business that generates consistent revenue, meaning revenue that keeps coming in whether you do something or not. It is a really, really crucial point that you have to be cognizant of, because until you have consistent cash flows, it's going to be difficult for you to um, leave your job just on leap of faith, because there's just so many unknowns in business. So that being said, like, make sure you develop a base that you can rely on outside of your work. And once you see it, even if you are at 75% of your income, and you have saved enough money, you can go full time, not a problem. Like, I went in business. I was working for several banks. I was a private wealth manager for some of the biggest banks here, right in front of White House and in Treasury. So I was managing about $250 million over there.
Mm.
And I had bought this house in 2004, in April 2004. And the day after I bought my house, I left my job. And because the commute was crazy, I just wasn't going to do it anymore. But I had enough saved up for me to take care of things. So, like, I knew that I just bought the house, so I couldn't just risk it. But I was able to do that because there was enough backup that I needed in order for me to make it work. And so just know that in business, if you ever have a hope to go from part-time to full-time, make sure that you're financially fluid, and your cash flow has to be there. Like, make sure you have cash flow, your consistent cash flow, not periodic cash flow where once in a while you make a couple of dollars, but I'm talking consistent revenue that you can count on month after month. And that's a really, really crucial point that you can. And then once you get to a point, you'll know, internally, you'll know whether you should make this move now or should you wait. You'll know.
So,
Awesome.
so Ash, do you have any tips on what to look for when you're ready to start looking for hiring an employee? Like what you should be looking for when you're looking at hiring your first employee?
So the way I look at it, skill set. So employees are, I call them, you're really, when you hire an employee, it's a person you're hiring. So but more importantly, it's a talent. It's that talent is what you're really employing at the end.
Mm.
So make sure they're efficient, and in terms of getting the job done, and make sure they're efficient in finishing the work, whatever task you assign them. I think the mistake people make is they want to hire one employee to do multiple things. Usually you end up paying more when you end up doing that. It's better to do one employee that does one thing and they're really good at it, and just give them everything that they all the resources that they deserve, in order for them to be successful. So in terms of like your employees are concerned, it is absolutely imperative that you are focusing them on one singular task. Like, so let's just say that, and I'm going to make up something. You are in a developing cell phone business, right? So you would see that Apple doesn't do everything in one place. They have assembly lines set up in different things that makes that makes this phone, right? It's not a one place that they are building everything in house. Like, it's a different assembly lines that are happening. So you have to be willing to set up multiple verticals. So if you have one task to do, if somebody's setting appointments for you, just let them set appointments, and that's it. Nothing else. You don't want them to be distracted, then, and you'll get more efficiency out of that than trying to have them do three or four things. Like, it's scientifically proven, when you're trying to do one thing when you do one thing at a time, you get things done more. But when you try to multitask, you do this and you stop, and then you do that and you stop, and then you do that, it's usually, it takes you, it says it takes you three times longer when you start and stop to do something, versus get something and get it done. Like, I was interviewing one of the CEOs of a multi-billion-dollar organization, and he told me, he's like, Ash, I think linear. So when it comes to something, you have to, like, in terms of like finishing a task, you're doing you have a timeline, right? So this is your timeline. It's your, like, your ruler, and these are all the things you have to get done, right? You don't touch the next thing until you finish the first thing. So that
Mm.
was his rule. He says, I don't touch the next thing until I finish the first thing. So if I'm not finished with the first thing, which he determined to be most important, right, at the time, then he will not go to the next thing.
Mm.
Right? So it's important to think linear, and with employees, it's the same thing. You have to find, like, your verticals that are important, and where you're going to fit them. And of course, you got to make sure that it's going to give you return on investment, because it's an investment you're making in a human being and in their talent.
Mm.
Yeah, that's great advice. Because I
Yeah.
know that that's a common question that's out there. When do I get to that point where I add that other person? But no, that's great advice. I know you helped quite a few of our followers on that. So before we go around the horn, Ash, can you please let our followers know how they can best connect with you? I know they have other questions they haven't typed into the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So they can go to ashshukla.com, or they can go to ashiscash.com and they'll find my website. They can find me on pretty much any platform. Like I said last week, I'm foundable. If you type in Ashish Cash or Ash Shukla, you'll find me. It's very hard not to find me. So with that being said, it's very simple. They can always text me or call me if they want to. My phone number is on my Facebook page, on my website, and it's pretty much everywhere. So, and I'm sure you guys can provide that as well if somebody needs it. So no problem.
Fantastic. Yeah, this is our Q&A episode of the 30-minute hour podcast. Now we're going to go around the horn. Each of us will leave that final thought that we want people to remember. So I'll go back to the man himself, Ash. What's your final thought you want people to remember about our session today?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the listeners. I really appreciate them being here. I want to let you guys know that I love you very much and I really want to make a difference in your life. So, thank you for being here. I appreciate that. If you're here live, you can write down the word live. If you're watching for the word replay, if watching replay, you can write down the word replay. If you really like my segment, you can give me some thumbs ups or like a love. I would love that absolutely. And if you have any, I just want to let you know that believe in yourself, believe in who you are, and just know that you are a energetic being. There is no reason, if somebody tells you otherwise, you are an energetic powerful being that and you can achieve anything you want. That there is nothing stopping you. The only thing stopping you is you, really. And nobody else is stopping you from who you really want to be. So just know that I come from lots of love. I want to make a difference in your life and I want to help you. And you can find me on ashshukla.com.
All right. Thank you for that. Ted?
Eric, man, you always put me after Ash. I mean, Ash just is such a nice guy. Just sounds so great. I told you, just make you want to just hug him, man. He's just such a great guy, man. So again, just
Okay.
appreciate you coming back out and sharing your knowledge out there. I mean, we've talked about so many things today around business, and just there was just so many nuggets out there about just moving forward and not just staying still, being innovative, being confident. I mean, it's just so much in here that I just think that it was like a book's worth of knowledge that was given, right? Business, 101, like everything that you need. And I think really what Ash really expressed is that you can do it, right? I mean, you're thinking about it. If you're thinking about it, you can do it, right? And the only thing that's stopping you, as I said before, is the easiest thing to do in the world is to do nothing. So if you sit there and you just continue thinking about it and you don't move, then nothing's going to happen. But you just start, this time that we have right now, whether it's a couple more weeks or whatever of, quarantine. I mean, if you come out of this quarantine session and you haven't really changed, if you come out of this quarantine session with, I want to do this, I'm thinking about doing that, then you've missed an amazing opportunity to be able to get that going right now, because now's the time to do that, right? And so I just think that if a lot of these viewers that have been on there, I know some of these individuals, and I know some of the businesses that they have, and they're doing some amazing things, and they're going to be doing some bigger and better things as a result of some of the nuggets that Ash shared today. So I thank you for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I love you, and I love you all too. So I don't, I don't want you to think I don't love you.
Yeah, and so my closing thought has to do with, so today we did a Q&A session, right? So you follow us, you watched us today just to listen to Ash for this Q&A session, but I would challenge everybody that's watching us to conduct their own Q&A session. Find a mentor, find an Ash, find someone who has the results that you aspire to, and ask specific questions. I mean, there's no need to reinvent the wheel unnecessarily. I think there's power, there's value in finding someone who's got the results, who has the lifestyle, who's making it happen, and doing the same things. We talked about Michael Jordan earlier. Kobe Bryant modeled his game after Michael Jordan. And if you ever saw them play, there was always a moment where Kobe is asking him questions live during the game. Well, how are you doing this? How are you getting the rebound? How are you always separating from the defender? He was doing a Q&A session. And at first they used to say, oh, Kobe, he's just a carbon copy of Michael Jordan. But they don't say that anymore. When you think of Kobe, you think of Kobe. So I think it just goes back to the power of having a mentor and really having your own Q&A session. Ted, you're about to say something?
And I'm thinking, if you're going to be a carbon copy of anyone, try to be a carbon copy of someone great.
Exactly. All right. But again, I think it goes back to confidence, because you have to be confident in yourself to approach that individual and ask for help. I think that takes confidence, and it takes a certain level of belief in yourself.
Yeah.
It requires so if you're not confident, just start taking small steps and move your way forward, right? So like, when you take a look at people who are really successful, how they build their confidence. They were not, everybody's born with a level of confidence, one way or the other. We all have same confidence level when we are born. And then as time goes on, as life happens, we have this different vantage point in our mind, because we come from a different environment, different place, and that's what determines the rest of the outcomes, right? So in reality, outcomes are always there. Like it's like an air, right? So I can if I do this in the air goes away for a moment as my hand is going through the air, but as my hand goes away, the air goes back in and fills that spot, right? So your thoughts are just like that. It fills an air, in that space, right? So for a moment, if I do this and I feel a wind around my hand, right? But as soon as I stop, my hand is where it's at, and the air comes right back. So I think a lot of times our thoughts are just like the air, and we have to be sure that that we're guarding that. We're guarding our thoughts. And things like this. Like my thoughts just went out because we have a little dog, Teddy. Teddy, look, he wanted to make an entry,
Oh, wow.
into the show. He's like, I want to make an entry. So he does that every time I'm here in the office. So he just comes out and he just wants to like see what am I doing? Am I okay? Am I not okay? That kind of thing. So that being said, but it is like it is like that. Thoughts are just like an air, very simply put.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Well, again, we just want to take time to thank Ash Shukla for doing this Q&A session. Again, this is the 30-minute hour podcast. It's not your everyday podcast. You can go to the 30minutehour.net and find our past episodes. And don't forget, this coming Wednesday at 6 o'clock, we've got the 30-minute hour live on lockdown coming at you. That's the show where you can unplug, unwind, and let your hair down. We look
Nice.
forward to seeing you live. Ted, any closing thoughts before we sign off?
No, man, it's been a great show, And again, Ash, again, thank you so much. And we may not have you back next week, but maybe the week after next, we'll have you come back.
That's fine.
Gotta mix it up.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I'll suggest you a couple of people you can bring on. I have a couple of clients I think would love to be on your show. I
That'll be
think
great.
it's really great to have them on your show. Number one.
Thank you.
And number two, like if anybody knows somebody who is interviewing people, let me know. I would love to be on your show. I have a new book coming out called Financial Chakras, and for the first time ever, I'm showing exactly how do you measure your potential in dollars, and how do you reach it, with the fastest energetic path to reach there. And it is going to get really interesting really fast. It's coming out very soon, and I'm actually talking about it on a several platforms. But I would, if you know anybody that's interviewing somebody or something of that nature on Zoom calls, or even soon will be live events, would love to come out and contribute, to your audiences. So I want to say thank
Yeah,
everybody for being here. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Ted, so much. Thank you
it's a
guys. I
pleasure.
really appreciate your opportunity to be
It's a
here.
pleasure. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. And
Yeah.
on that note, have a great one.
Take care.